Hi, hello, good morning, how do you do? 4 ways I have said good morning this morning. However, I'm going to show you or demonstrate 2 more ways of saying good morning, and then I will communicate with you components of communication and, being teachers, the importance of the way you communicate with children in your class for that boring 45.
Good morning, children. Okay, so let's start today's class. Can we have a quick exercise before the class, our finger exercise, so that we can energize ourselves and be active during our class? All right, so let's get started.
Just before demonstrating the 2 good mornings, I had used the word boring. Are we, as teachers, captivating our children to listen to us and getting them to do what exactly they need to do to progress in the learning process? There are a few elements that we need to keep in mind when we are communicating with children. As teachers, our communication should be awesome in the sense that we can captivate them, get their attention for every second of that 45 minutes that we are in the class. And to do so, there are certain elements which we need to keep in mind or practice. We need to consider listening to children when they are expressing themselves to us. Now, mind you, while listening to them, don't listen to them for the sake of listening to them, and never fake it, because they themselves will know when you are faking and when you are genuine. Motivate children through your voice. You are the resource. You motivate them through your voice. You need to use intonation. You need to sometimes introduce some funny sounds or some animal sounds. You can motivate them through storytelling. You can motivate them by simply acting or by simply bringing in some humor. It is also very important to understand the emotions of children. Remember, you've got 30 children in a classroom and it could be very complex. 30 minds with 30 different emotions in your classroom. Or let's say 50% of the children have come very happy to school because they are going to meet their friends and they are going to enjoy themselves talking and chatting and sharing experiences. 30% have come very anxious to school because it's a math test, or it could be a science test, or maybe an English class test that is taking place on that day. Another 20% of the children have come to school extremely excited because it is their assembly day and they are waiting to go into the activity hall and share what they have prepared for the assembly. Now, children are very attentive to whatever is happening around them. If you are able to understand their emotions, and if they are able to deal with their emotions, learning takes place. Learning is an important factor for them in the classroom with you. Through this session, we are going to demonstrate, or we are going to share with you, components of communication and how to communicate with children to motivate them, gain their attention, and increase the learning process or strengthen the learning process to be progressive in nature.
I'm going to highlight here very important things we need to keep in mind when we communicate very effectively to our children. First and foremost, we need to be very respectful. Okay, being teachers, it is important to always speak in a very respectful way with our kids. Be truthful. We need to be truthful with our children because they ask a lot of questions. And when they ask us a lot of questions, we need to be very appropriate in our way of answering them. We need to practice active listening. Being teachers and educators, we need to be active listeners. We need to listen to our children. Take the time to talk. Spend some quality time listening to them, having a conversation, and spark a moment of truth between you and your kids. Consider your tone and your body language. This is a very important aspect when you communicate, because when you communicate, you need to have intonation in your voice, you need to have voice modulation, you need to have facial expressions when you talk, and when you do that, that's when you catch the attention of your children, because that's when they listen to you very attentively. Concentrate on the emotion of your child. It's very important that you know and you are aware how emotionally your child is involved when they are talking to you. And lastly, acknowledge their feelings. You need to acknowledge their feelings because you need to know how they feel when they communicate to you, and reciprocate the same way with your feelings to them.
I would like to ask you that how can effective communication be achieved in teaching?
Wow, wonderful question. Effective communication in teaching. This could be achieved through 3 steps. The first goes like feed up, followed by feed back, and then lastly we have feed forward. What exactly is feed up? Here, we gotta be very transparent with the idea of evaluation and the criteria of evaluation, what we give to our students. And then comes feedback, wherein we give sufficient feedback to the students to enhance their learning through the evaluation which we got. And lastly, we have feed forward. Here, we give inputs to the students to enhance their learning process. Components of motivation to learn. This has got different diameters in it, like self-efficiency. Self-efficiency is a person's belief, basically a student's belief in his or her ability to complete or get success in his or her task in a particular situation. Then comes attitude. Attitude is a set of emotions, beliefs, and behavior what a child has towards his or her studies. Need. Need is basically the most important one because it shows how it's important for a child to know the need to learn. It's not just making a child a successful person in his or her future, but then it also makes them a skilled person, a knowledgeable person. Then comes competency. And competency is basically something which you are able to do successfully and efficiently. Lastly, we have motivators. Here, it's all about teachers. How a teacher could be a good motivator to his or her students. So motivators should be very good motivators to not only motivate the children for their own benefit, but also to have a good rapport with his or her students.
Techniques of delivering communication. There are 3 techniques of delivering communication. Number 1, verbal technique. Number 2, non-verbal techniques. Number 3, media. When I refer to verbal techniques, I mean use of words. It can be handwritten or spoken. It is also sometimes called as spoken communication. Number 2, non-verbal techniques. It refers to facial expressions, gestures, paralinguistic such as loudness or firmness, and body language. When I refer to media as a technique of delivering communication, I mean it is a way, means, or channel of transmitting message. It has a receiver and a sender.
It is very important to understand how to structure our communication. So I'm here to give you 3 important techniques of how to structure our communication. Now, when you start your class, it is very important, number 1, to get your students interested. We need to ensure that the way we communicate gets all our students' eyes, ears, heart, soul, mind, body, everything to our attention. Next, we need to organize our class. Now, it's very imperative here where we as educators need to ensure that our class is well organized. There should be no unnecessary talking going on, unnecessary noise, because if that happens, that's going to disrupt our teaching learning process. So we need to make sure that our class is well organized. And lastly, we need to clarify the purpose and the goal of the class. So in the beginning, we need to ensure that our children know what we are going to do with them. So by the end of the class, they know what they have learnt, what the topic is all about, and what they are going to accomplish by learning the lesson.
Hi Arshia,
Hello.
how are you doing?
All good.
I wanted to quickly ask you, what are the different techniques for getting feedback in your classroom? If you could throw some light on that,
Wow.
make me understand.
That's nice. That's the best part actually of my class. So firstly, I observe the students' body language. I see whether they are all involved in the class or not. And then accordingly, I do throw a set of quick, short questions to them to understand about the knowledge what they have grabbed about the content. And of course, that develops a discussion which goes on in my class. And then lastly, I would also request my students or allow them to give me some written feedback on the topic that we discussed on a particular day. Ways to get a noisy classroom's attention. Help students to understand. Clap once, clap twice. Use a timer. Stand in a designated spot. Count backwards from 4. Thank students that are already quiet individually. Use a notable name. Use a spotlight. Get the right ones on your side. Use non-verbal clues. Gamify. Resist the temptation to get emotions.
Hello, Austin sir.
I want to ask you a question here. I wanted to know how important it is to grab the attention of students who are present in the classroom before you start your class actually.
Grabbing students' attention is an essential component before we commence our class. It is equally important to ensure that every child present in the class is attentive. I can list down a few activities that we can use in the class to grab attention. Scooby-Doo, where are you? Hocus Pocus, time to focus. 1, 2, 3, eyes on me. What are we here for? To learn. Freeze, clap your hands so they can clap 7 times or 5 times. Are you focused? Yes, I am. Good, better, best. Let it rest.
Personalizing and involving emotions, in the teaching learning process is very important. The only reason being is because if we want to part with information, it is also important to understand the mood. Going ahead and personalizing and involving emotions in the teaching learning process, we consider it as an important or an integral part. The only reason being is if one or the student is not, or if anybody for that matter, is not in the proper frame of mind or not feeling the best to absorb as much as of all information they can, then it would not be meeting the purpose at the end of the day. So the child is not able to absorb or understand, because in place of understanding or learning, they are either feeling confused, or they're feeling too maybe curious, or they probably, already thinking of an achievement. Maybe they may be feeling proud of an achievement that they might have, recently got. So we have to make them understand, or understand what type of feeling they are actually going through. And most often, about 70 to 80% of children are always ready to, in that mood to actually learn. But there can be a lot of students who are not in that right mind frame. Now, it doesn't matter whether they're being excited, or they're happy, or they're sad, or they're angry. So that is what is important, to understand the emotion or the feeling of the child.
Finally, remember, when you are with children, be natural, enjoy yourself with them, let them enjoy the process. Use a lot of body language, use a lot of face expressions, use voice intonation. Be an actor if you have to, and children will definitely learn through these processes. I am sure you've had a good session. Thank you very much, and we'll see you once again.